Welcome to Startuprad.io, your podcast and YouTube blog covering the German startup scene with news, interviews, and live events. Hello and welcome everybody. This is Joe from Startuprad.io, your startup podcast and YouTube blog from Germany. Today we bring you another interview in our series with the accelerator program Content Shift of the German Book Publishers and Book Printers Association. This time we are actually dealing with more or less a company which is a social company that is actually dealing in books. Not really physically, but we'll get into that. And I would like to welcome one of the co-founders, Christina, here with me. Hey, welcome.
Welcome. Good morning. My name is Christina. I'm from PlusPlural, and I'm the team member together with Pascal Heusner. And we are publishing children books for visually impaired children.
That is quite something that instantly caught my eyes, and when I was preparing for this interview, I found a wonderful quote from Dante Alighieri: "Three things remain with us from paradise: stars, flowers, and children." Therefore, I really appreciate that. I would be a little bit curious, what took you here? What brought you here? I've been stalking you, of course, on LinkedIn, and everybody who'd like to reach out to you, they can go down here in the show notes. There is a link to your LinkedIn profile so people can reach out to you directly. And I've seen that you've been in insurance business, that you've been self-publishing, and that you are an author. But how did you get from being in insurance to publish, to set up books for visually impaired children?
Yeah, this is a long story. Actually, I started writing when I got my two children. I stopped with the insurance company because I couldn't work that way I used to. And I just started to write because it was like a hobby. And I just wrote for my children, and I went to the school and to the kindergarten and read my stories there. I only had the script. And a teacher told me, well, we really enjoy your stories. You should publish them. You should find a publisher. And then I started to reach out to find a publisher, but it wasn't that easy the way I thought it could be. And I found an illustrator, and she already had made a crowdfunding with Start Next here in Germany. And so we decided to publish our first children book on our own. And this is the story about a hedgehog who lost his spikes. And while I'm writing this story, I was thinking about doing something special together with the book, because I was a bad reader when I was a child. So I started to design some plush figures. And this is the hedgehog. And now you can see the hedgehog, which is naked. He looks like this. And you can play the whole story with the plush figures. I have also the owl, the rabbit, and the duck. And then I tried to find, again, a publisher who would use both the book and the plush figures. But I couldn't find some. Another illustrator get noticed from our work, and she said, well, this is such a nice story because the hedgehog lost something what is very important for him to keep himself safe. He lost his spikes. So she said, what about publishing this book for visually impaired children, because you can touch them and you notice the hedgehog, how he is. And she had the contact to the Deutsche Zentralbücherei für Blinde. And so they published, or you say it's translated, because it's translated into Braille. And it looks like this. And there you can see the hedgehog. Here is in relief print. And this is the way blind children gets to know about the visual illustration. So this is the illustration in the Braille book, and this is the illustration in the classical children book. So I had a friend who had lost his sight during a car accident, and he was a father of two young boys, and his oldest boy was about 5 years old, and I gave to him the book, the Braille version, to show him my story and to get feedback from him. And he said, "Well, it's such a nice story, but I have to tell you that my son was very bored because he couldn't see a lot of visual illustrations. It was kind of boring for him, and the reading I did was very slow, so he get very bored. He has no pictures to look at because he has sight. His son is sighted." And I asked him, "Well, what about other books? You should have plenty of them to read to your child." And he said, "No, there is no book for sighted and visual impaired persons. So you can't go together and read a book in Braille, and someone who can see the visual illustrations." So that was the reason why I started to work on this, because I couldn't imagine that in Germany you can't get a book where two people sit together, have fun, learn reading, and dive into a story. And that was the reason why I started with this project.
Let me get the bottom line. First, you did this really cute book with a hedgehog who lost his spikes, and that went along with the stuffed animal, and that got you the idea to basically translate it into Braille, which is the for everybody who's just listening to this, is the language, is the writing of the blind, where you actually have like, sorry, I don't read Braille. It's like dots that you can actually feel with your fingers, and you can be as fast as with normal reading. And you actually turned then your book into something that is actually a colored book, but there's an additional layer, a see-through layer, where it's like stamped in it, 3D printed. It's feelable. You can actually feel the paintings, and that makes the book suitable for people and children who see and don't see at the same time. Would this like a good wrap up?
No, actually, it doesn't work, because visual people who are visual, they get bored when they look at these illustrations. So you need something more for the visual people, and you also need something more for the visually impaired people, because if you see, I show it again, if you see this relief print, you can see it. It could also be a pineapple, or it also could be a sun. So you have to read the sign underneath that it is a hedgehog. And that was the reason why I'd start to research, and there is nothing in 3 dimension. So I started to find out something else with the 3D printing, and I started this one. This is a hedgehog where you can grab, and it's very like a natural one to get through it. And we also tried different kind of shapes to get through this toy, that you have the book and you have a 3-dimensional character to get into the story and to get away from the 2 dimension. So you have this 3rd dimension, you can take it in your hand and you can play with it, and you can also learn how a real hedgehog feels like.
We may add that, for everybody who's just listening to this podcast, that you held up like a black 3D print of a hedgehog, which basically fits into the palm of your hand, right?
Right. And then we started to think about, this was really the beginning. We think about the materials. We try to different materials in 3D printing, and we thought about something where we can put also the Braille print, the Braille and the normal writing. to get through that point. And then we started to think about making a box where you can put the written story inside, the classical book, and also the Braille print, and then the characters. And this is the idea with which we were starting at the content shift.
So, what is now the idea you guys are pursuing at Content Shift? Where you want to go? Where you see the final outcome?
Yeah, we had a mentoring program together with two mentors and a coach. And they started to think about our idea, and they said, well, we need to find our personas to find out who would buy this. Well, because actually there are not so many blind children in Germany. And the problem about that, you can't get the real numbers. How many children in the age from 0 to 6 are blind, born blind? You can't get the statistic numbers. That's because of our historic in Germany. So we can't find out how many would buy this. And then we said, well, our wish is that you have both the visual children and the visual impaired children together, that they have one, like a box where they can read and then they can play, and they do it together. So we thought it was a good idea to start at the kindergarten at the age of 4. And so we decided that we need a project where you can go to the educators where before school starts, because normal or sighted children, they start to paint and do something like writing. In the first step, they paint a snake or something like that. This is the beginning of writing.
And actually, everything looks like random circles, like a little bit chaotic circles.
The first letters, it's over a whole page. It's one letter. They start to write their name in really big letters. So visual impaired children usually start to write and to learn Braille at school, not before, not in kindergarten. They only if the parents are very interested in this problem and they have good education and a good help, a good support in the beginning. But if I would imagine I had children with visual loss, I would more focus on how my child could go outside, how it could be in the house and things like that. Not at that moment, I wouldn't try to bring books to my children. There are many things you have to think about, and you have to practice with a child to get mobility, and to get out on his own. So that is the reason why we start that early, at the age of 4. And in kindergarten, I think there are many groups where integrative, where children with disabilities and not, they are together. So it's a perfect time to start there. And then we have to start with a kindergarten teacher. We start the project to give them a box, and now we are that we not only make a book, so we try to make a lot of playing and a lot of learning, but only with a lot of fun. It's not like you give your child to the kindergarten and it should learn Mandarin or something. We just want to have a box where it's like a surprise box. You can paint together, you can hear something, you can play something. So it's a box where a lot of different kind of my English is what a lot of different opportunities you get to play something. And the second part is that you learn something earlier than right now.
I see. And basically, you bumped into the problem that you want to start in kindergarten, but the children there don't, the blind children or visually impaired don't learn Braille until school. So basically that was the problem you bumped into, and that's why you have to settle for like a 3D printed toys and stuff like this. So children who can see and cannot see could interact with the exact same book, right? That was what you're going at, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the reason why. Because if you don't start that early, in the beginning, you said something that someone who reads Braille could get as fast as a reader with vision. It's not that way. It's that a very good Braille reader is 3 times slower than a normal reader. And if you don't start early to learn Braille, you don't. It's like we in Germany we said roter Faden. It's you're always behind because you don't learn if you don't have the idea why you should learn Braille. It's that you don't know how to use the computer later on. You should imagine if they are in the 5th grade, they have to learn the technical things and learn to use a computer. They can't use the mouse, and that's a real bad thing because they all have to learn these shortcuts. And when they don't have learned the real writing, the right grammar, they don't get used to why should I make a Satzzeichen and punctuation and all these punctuation you need for the shortcuts. And if you don't know why you should use it, you won't learn it. And then you can't use the computer the right way. And then it's getting forward. And then you don't use the Braille again. And you only use the audio description from the computer. You don't read anymore because you only get something and you hear it. It should be an opportunity to use both. That's the reason why I want to start that early, to give the children the opportunity to learn Braille in a very good way and to get faster in reading and also in writing.
I see. Learned something new. I, when we talked before the interview, when we did our prep talk, I was asking you what you're currently doing. So basically, it turned out you don't have like the financial capabilities to actually do the production and distribution of the books yourself. That's what you're currently looking for. So you're looking for only distribution and production partner, or are you also looking for something like an investor? Would you be open to that as well?
Yeah, sure. We look for an investor also because we have many ideas. We want to build a real world about all these inclusion in both directions. If you think about inclusion today, it's always we do something for visual impaired children and we do something for children without disability, but you don't do something where the blind or visually impaired children and the children without a disability get together. And why shouldn't a child who has normal sight, why shouldn't this child learn Braille? It's just on top. It's just something maybe it could use in the future. If you think about our health system, we know that many people have diabetes and it starts about when you're 40, 45. A lot of people doesn't even notice that they have diabetes. They go to the eye doctor and then they say, oh, I can't read that good. And then after that, they see that they have diabetes. And there are many eye illness things who comes out of this diabetes. So if you have learned Braille at children's age, you can use it in the future maybe, or you have somebody in your family who lost his vision and you can help them. And also it is for the educational, for the teachers. If you don't work with it, where should you learn Braille? So you can start very early, and in the future you have you earn it.
Ah, I see. So you argue that everybody should learn Braille because one of the main reasons that you need to use it in a later age is when you get diabetes and your eyesight gets impaired. So you cannot read properly anymore, and it's very hard to learn something, especially like Braille, if you don't, on the other hand, can read. You cannot read the instructions. You would need instantly to switch to Braille. You're also open for an external investor. That's what I take along as well. And let us get into the final part when we talk about Content Shift, because you're one of the finalists of Content Shift. At the time of recording this, we don't know who will be the winner. Nonetheless, thumbs pressed for you. In Germany, we press thumbs. We don't cross fingers. And what did Content Shift for you? What would you take? What did you take out of it? And would you recommend other startups to apply there as well?
Yeah, Content Shift is a very good platform to get in contact to the book publisher community. I didn't have the chance since years to get there, and I think it's very good. It's also a very good platform for new ideas and innovations. And they are very open-minded, and there are a lot of mentors and coaches. They help you to get to your startup, to get your startup known, and to get very good ideas and impulses for your project. So we wanted only to make a book with a few features, and after that we talked to our mentors and our coach. They brought us to the point, and we are one of the starters. We are in the seed phase, in the beginning, and we are open-minded, and we have many ideas. So we needed someone who is a professional and who could help us to find the focus, because we have so many ideas and we couldn't bring it into one product. And that now we are at the point that we see which things our product could do. And we found out that we have many more opportunities to use the product when it's done. So finished. For example, we talked about the problem in the future with diabetes. We also found out that children who can't read as well, legasthenia, people who have dyslexia, or if you go forward, who have Alzheimer, maybe they don't know the word still, but if they see this little hedgehog, they maybe know it's an animal. It's from the garden. I know it from earlier days. They don't get the word hedgehog, but maybe they get something what describes it. So we don't only get to reading and writing. We get about over the figure that the people get a feeling for a word. So it's more like playing with something, and then you see the word is also there, and after a while, over this playing, you see the word, and then you remember it. So we have no, I have to say it in German, sorry.
So you have no research results for this type of learning, but basically you can imagine that this actually would work. As always, I want to add a little bit history, because the first diagnosed Alzheimer patients was somebody from Frankfurt. There is a trivia story that a lady from the Frankfurt borough of Bornheim went to Dr. Alzheimer, who was at this time practicing in Frankfurt, and she said, "Herr Doktor, ich habe mein Leben vergessen. Dear Mr. Doctor, I've forgotten my life." And she was basically patient zero for Dr. Alzheimer, where he started to research this illness. That said, I do believe we now understand also your outlook, that you're looking at therapy, not only at children, but also like Alzheimer patients and other patients at old age. I would say you still have a lot ahead of you. Best of luck for that. And thank you very much for being a guest here on my show.
Thank you very much for being in this show. I enjoyed it very much. You too.
Great. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you here. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Having a lot of fun. No.
That's all, folks. Find more news, streams, events, and interviews at www.startuprad.io. Remember, sharing is caring.